Hey, everybody, welcome once again to the Music Nerds Record Club, coming to you live from all over God's green acre. My name is Greenberg. I host the Debts No Honest Man Can Pay podcast. Used to be a radio show, but we're not going to talk about that. Would like to thank Mr. Andy Smith, aka the teacher on the radio, whose long running radio show of the same name can be heard every Saturday on WTTU in Cookeville. Amy Rock, straight out of Nashville, as well as Pop Matters Culture. I meant to say columnist, but you are a Pop Matters cultural columnist.
No, I write for myself.
I was talking about Rick.
Oh, excuse me.
But sorry, Amy. Amy does a lot of really cool stuff too. I you know what? Shame on me. I need to get your resume.
Sorry to interrupt.
Last but not least, straight out of New City, New York, the man who has done more for my musical taste than any other being on the planet, Mr. Joe Guinness. So here's the deal. Tonight, you have all so graciously allowed me to play Puppet Master. And I've given each of you a top secret assignment. You are not to tell anybody else what your assignment is, and all will be revealed tonight. But in the interest of being fair, I've given myself an assignment, and to keep me accountable, even I have a puppet master. My puppet master, Rabbi Punchberg. He's going to keep me on the straight and narrow, okay? So there will be accountability, unlike other places in the infrastructure of this country. Rabbi Punchberg will keep me and the rest of you. No, actually, no. I trust you all, but he's going to keep me on the straight and narrow. So I am going to do my assignment in little bits and pieces. You know, I'm just going to give you the setup first, and then we're going to go to our first speaker, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to give you the second part. So what we're talking about here, as I put on my Chuck Schumer glasses, is my assignment was to talk to you about something I like to call the Bottle Lightning Sweet Spots. These are 3 albums by 3 singer-songwriters that made me a fan for life. Yet, the artists in question, in my humble opinion, and we all know my humble opinion and 50 cents can barely get a cup of coffee, but the artists in question, in my humble opinion, have not been able to top these records that made me a fan, or even come close. And I still love these artists. I'll buy everything they do, but I'm always wishing that they're going to do something like that one album that made me fall in love with them. And that's not fair to them, and that just makes me a schmuck and a human being. So it all boils down to, in the case of these Bottle Lightning Sweet Spots, production. And as we all know, production can be a mercurial thing. It can elevate a project or just cap it at the knees. And with these albums, the productions takes the songs to another level. And if songs are people, production would be the clothes they wear. And the songs on these albums are decked out in the snazziest of threads. And the songs of these albums are sharply dressed in a way that make these albums stand apart from the rest of each of these artists' collective catalog. And after our first speaker, I will go ahead and tell you what the first Bottle Lightning Sweet Spot is. So with that in mind, I think it's only fair to give it up for the man who is usually the host of these proceedings, Mr. Andy Teacher on the radio. Tell us what your top secret assignment is.
First, I have to unmute myself. There I am. Hey, everybody. I'm Teacher on the radio coming in from Cookeville, Tennessee. Our regular fellow Cookvillan has been relocated for the semester to Dublin, Ireland, and it's past his bedtime in Dublin. He's not with us tonight, Gus, but I was not surprised, even a little bit, that my assignment involved the boss. The man that made New Jersey less toxic, the working class poet of rock, Bruce Springsteen. And I must say that I probably would not have the appreciation that I have for Bruce Springsteen were it not for Greenberg, because I feel like when we all met, the three of us from Detroit, when Joe, Scott, and I met, I was representing for Bono and Edge and Adam, and Joe was representing for, and Larry and Joe was representing for Bill, Buck, Mike Mills, Stipe, the whole thing, REM, and Scott was Bruce Springsteen. And he even had a band called American Garage that was kind of like a petty Springsteen kind of thing. So, but I've always been kind of Bruce adjacent, not a Springsteenologist at all. And I was given the assignment to reduce The River down to 10 songs, which first of all required me to listen to The River. And I knew a couple of the songs for sure. I knew the song The River. I knew Hungry Heart for sure. But I had to listen to The River. And I came up with my 10, my edit, my master suite. And I used a few very uncreative means to assist myself, such as I asked Gus's father, the other Springsteenologist in my life, what he thought the best 10 songs on The River were. I looked at their streaming numbers and I saw which were the most popular according to the random millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people that have streamed these songs. And of course, I think that's pretty wild because, you know, if you go get the streaming numbers from Beyonce today, that's pretty indicative of Beyonce's current fan base. But Bruce's millions and millions and millions and millions of listeners were listening to cassette and vinyl albums long before we had CDs, even much less streaming services. So I think that those numbers are still probably too small. So I then kind of went for vibe, and I went for lyrics, and I went for then the arc, and I kept the same order. And I'm going to think that mine is probably, it's pretty predictable. So it opens up with The Ties That Bind, and it closes with Wreck on the Highway. And then we have Sherry Darling, Independence Day, Hungry Heart, Out in the Street, The River, Point Blank, Cadillac Ranch, and Drive All Night, and then closing out with Wreck on the Highway. I did have kind of like a feeling that there should be like a runner-up, or what, you know, if I had been in a different mood, you know, what would have been the others. And I couldn't tell you a lot of them, but there's this one song on here that I was having a really hard time not putting on there, and it's called I'm a Rocker, because it's just, I don't know, there's just something about that one that just really enamored me. I also really liked Stolen Car and Drive All Night. So there's definitely seems to be these universal kind of American rock themes that Springsteen is sort of the master of. But I am not a Springsteenologist. This did not make me a Springsteenologist. And I still have a lot of work to do on Springsteen. I really need to see him again. I think if I had tickets to a show, that would get me excited to listen more in depth. And I hope that is somewhat of what you were looking for. I did feel a little bit like I have homework and I don't know if I'm going to pass the quiz or not, Professor Greenberg. So I hope I at least got a C+ on that one.
Andy, I think that is solid B+, A- work. I was kind of disappointed that you relied so heavily on the numbers, and I wanted you to go with your gut, but I'm glad that you went ahead and expressed your love for things like I'm a Rocker and Stolen Car, which really has that Nebraska DNA, and especially Drive All Night, which is kind of an epic of sorts. So Andy, thank you for your efforts. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to continue with my assignment, which is we're going to run down the first of the Bottled Lightning Sweet Spots, albums that made me a fan of these artists, but albums that just created such a high bar for me that nothing else by these artists has lived up to them ever since. And that's all on me. I'm the asshole in this case. So the first one, and I'll go ahead and grab a visual aid here. The first one is the self-titled debut, 1986, from singer-songwriter Peter Case, Who is Peter Case? I'm glad you asked. Peter Case was the frontman of the Plimsolls. You may remember them from the song A Million Miles Away. And then before that, he was in a band called The Nerves, who did the original version of Hanging on the Telephone, which Blondie made famous on their Parallel Lines album. Shout out to Clem Burke. The 1986 self-titled debut from Peter Case dropped on Geffen, produced by the great T-Bone Burnett. This album made me a fan of T-Bone. 4 of the 12 songs co-produced by T-Bone Burnett and Mitchell Froom, 2 of my all-time favorite producers, guys who could take the least of something and make the most of it. I love the aesthetic of everything they touch. And the album closes with an interpretation of the Pogues' A Pair of Brown Eyes that I gotta say I like better than the original. The vibe, modern American roots music with that stellar postmodern production from T-Bone Burnett and Mitchell Froom. So we will hit that second one after the next person that we're going to have speak. And I'm going to offer the most sincerest of apologies to Amy Rock. I think I totally did you wrong in our introduction because I was trying to intro you and Rick. And so I'm going to study your resume. So for the next time, I can put you like way upon the rock that you deserve. So Amy, I'm especially excited to hear what you did for this particular assignment because I picked it especially just for you.
Yes, thank you. No, sorry for interrupting your introduction. I was really excited for this assignment, and I got an opportunity to kind of cheat and do extra credit. Literally the next day, the artist I was assigned was playing in Nashville. So I bought a ticket to go see Kraftwerk. So Scott assigned me to dig into the work of Kraftwerk and find my 5 favorite songs. I feel like I cheated because the songs I found were songs they played, and they're, for the most part, the title tracks from the albums they're from. But I need y'all to keep this in mind. I couldn't name one album a month ago. And if you know me, I am our resident EDM fan here and longtime listener of house and trance music. And there is such a direct line from the work of Kraftwerk to the techno music of Detroit and the house music of Chicago that is the direct line to the music I'm going to see every single time I go out to a rave, that it's absurd that I wasn't already a huge fan. And now I am, because I've got to spend time spinning these different albums and discovering this awesome group. Let's see. That was my notes there. Here are my top 5. Number 5, Trans Europe Express. It's about trains. Let's go. 2, Tour de France. 4. This is how numbers work. 4, Tour de France Part 2. They played like the whole suite of Tour de France song. It's about cycling and there's cycling sounds. It's great. But the Part 2, I know I've heard it in a DJ mix somewhere. Like the hook from that is in my head and heart, and I love it. It sounds like everything I enjoy listening to, the ethereal, super modulated keys with the simple 4 on the floor driving beat. Good stuff. 3, The Man Machine. It's repetitive. It's fully entrancing. Like, there's a genre of EDM that's trance, and it's characterized by what's in this song, this changing, slowly repetitive, rhythmic, just soothing music, and the patterns. And the visuals for this one were maybe my favorite, where just the words kept showing up on the big screen. And yeah, that was super cool. I could talk more about what the show is like, but I ended up being like super close. So the screen behind the 4 guys behind their pedestals was filling my whole field of vision. And that was spectacular. And the other great part was just hearing these songs the way they were meant, like shaking your chest, live music. So 2, Radioactivity. That one just like shakes your chest and it's so good. And my number 1 favorite song is not the title track, but from Computer World, Pocket Calculator. And I love this album the most out of the ones I listen to because it sounds like 80s computer toys. I like this song because it goes beep, boop, brr, and makes me happy. And Kraftwerk rules, loves it. Thank you, Scott. This is fun, so much fun.
Amy, that is A+ work there. I was so happy to do this because knowing that you're our resident EDM person, I'm like, I don't know what Amy's relationship with Kraftwerk is. So I thought, if you know them, this will be a treat for you. If you don't, I envy your joy of discovery. And when you texted me and said, they're playing today and I got a ticket, I can't tell me. I can't tell you how happy that made me, because you without serendipitously, you embarked on this adventure and you just had this great time that you didn't expect that you were going to have. And I'm happy to hear that you are now a fan. And I think your choices were great. And I agree. Computer World is probably my favorite. That was probably my gateway drug for them. My favorite Kraftwerk song is from that album, Computer Love, which none other than Coldplay paid homage to them in the song Talk. And I don't know if you caught this, but one of the things I love about Kraftwerk is just how insanely melodic these songs are. I'm like, you could find yourself whistling or humming any of these melodies just indiscriminately at any point. So, Amy, that is just top-notch work there. So
thank you. I'm grateful for the assignment. It was so much fun.
I'm grateful to have this opportunity to make y'all dance like little puppets. So, all right, let's get back to the Bottle Lightning sweet spots. The next album that I absolutely unfairly hoist above all others by this artist, based on the collision of songcraft and production, is Joe Henry's Fuse. And we're talking about production being like clothes. And take a look at how snazzy he looks. I mean, take a look at how snazzy Peter Case looks. These are well-dressed men. But, okay, so Joe Henry, born in Charlotte, where I currently live, grew up in Oakland Township, Michigan, not too far away from where Joe and I grew up and where Andy spent a great part of his life. Graduated from Rochester Adams High School, graduated from U of M. I had known about him for a while, but it was the title track of Trampoline that caught me. But his 7th album, Fuse, that's the one that made me fall in love. It's just a smoky noir cool vibe. It's like each of these could have been vignettes or short films. It's like, when I say smoky noir cool, I mean like the cool vibe, kind of like when we were talking about Morphine, but like also songs like Great Lake could be like a little mini film noir. I could almost see Linda Fiorentino as the femme fatale. And if you know who Linda Fiorentino is, you get bonus points. Incidentally, the album co-produced by T-Bone Burnett with Daniel Lanois, and that just explains everything. Fun fact, Joe approached Dr. Dre to produce this, and for whatever reason, that didn't happen, but that would be a fascinating alternate reality scenario to see. What if Dr. Dre had produced Fuse? So there you have it. I am going to go ahead now, and I'm going to throw it to the man with the most handsome background of all of us, Mr. Rick Quinn.
Thank you, Scott. And boy, this was so much fun. I was like a kid at Christmas when Messenger dinged my private assignment, unwrapping to see what I had been given, and Scott charged me with identifying 5 current pop artists and choosing their analog from the past. This this was wild and fun. So I'm just going to start right off. Go big, go home. I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to make an argument for a couple of biggies. So the first one I chose was Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift I am pairing with Don't Throw Things, and I'm not necessarily talking about just the folks here on the chat, but the person I'm about to pair her with, and that is Joni Mitchell. Now there's some obvious connections here. Taylor says that Joni's inspiration. There's Joni's blue. There's Taylor's red. But the primary criteria here for me was that they are both crafts people who attend to words, emotions. They pull from their relationships and turn it into some powerful art. In similar ways, both have moved from more acoustic singer-songwriter, Taylor's early country roots, to experimentations with other genres of music. So that is the first current and historical analog that I came up with. The second one to me seems so obvious it felt like cheating, but that is Lady Gaga, who I paired from the past with Mr. David Bowie. It's not only their the way in which they mesmerize with their music, the beats, but the constant transformation visually, orally, etc. that seems to work and contributes to both their mystique and their popularity as modern day pop artists. All right, for my third choice, I fudged a little with the rules, so I don't know if the rabbi's going to have to bot me a couple of times here, but I'll take my medicine. I gave Chapel Roan 2 analogs. Okay, one is Boy George Culture Club. This was the a nod to both of those artists' attention to camp and drag. But I also paired Chapel Roan with Betty Davis, the funk and soul artist from the 70s and 80s, who at one time was married to Miles Davis. For Betty's, not just for Betty's costumes, but also for her the beats and the way in which her songs were transgressive in terms of sexually suggestive lyrics, very much like Chapel Roan's are. All right, so that's 3. On number 4, I confess I was up against the wall, so I phoned a friend. I consulted with my 28-year-old daughter, who suggested this pairing to me, and then she sent me a song to seal the deal. I think it works. It's Harry Styles, Elton John. Now, there's some obvious differences. Elton was not in a wildly popular boy band, but they are both in fashion hounds towards a certain kind of glamour and over the topness. Harry, of course, dressed up for Halloween as Elton John on one of his concerts. But she sent me this song, "Sign of the Times," a very much an Elton John like ballad that you would find in some of the height of his work in the 70s. They're also masters of pop and other forms. So that's number 4. And rounding out my my 5 current and historical analogs, I picked Adele of that's caramely, silky smooth voice that has us all rolling in the deep. And I paired her with the blue-eyed soul, pop, and dramatic balladry of Miss Dusty Springfield. So those are my 5, and that was a lot of fun, Scott. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Well, just to let you know, Rabbi Punchberg is going to allow you the double dip on Chapel Roan because both he and I are fans of Betty Davis. That was a deep pull I didn't see coming, and we both give you mad respect. The rabbi gives you 5 punches for that. Did you ever see Mike Judge's Tales from the Tour Bus?
I've seen clips, but is something specific that you had in mind?
They do an episode about Betty Davis.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so check it out. I'm like, the whole series is great. They do one about country and they do one about funk. I think they did 2 seasons of country. Anyways, just if you can find it, watch it all. And Rick, that is just solid A work there. I am going to quickly, before I hit you with my last Bottle Lightning sweet spot, I want to go ahead and speak on behalf of our friend Gus, who is traipsing all over the Emerald Isle. I gave him an assignment. I was really excited to see what he would come back with for this assignment. Unfortunately, he can't join us because it's midnight over in Ireland and he's getting a good night's rest before hitting the books in the morning. Would we have loved for him to hit us first before he hits the hay? Yes, but the next time he joins us, I'm going to ask him to give us a little more depth. But here was Gus's assignment since he's in Ireland. I assigned him to do the deep dive on one of Dublin's favorite sons, Mr. Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy, one of the more underrated hard rock bands of the 70s, a band that over the last 20 years or so, I have really grown to just out and out love. They used to be a guilty pleasure and I got over the guilt and I fucking love them. And I wanted to see, if Gus had been exposed to their music by his old man or if this was going to be a whole new experience. Gus got back to me with his 5 picks. And so when he joins us again, I want to pick his brain to get some more feedback. But here's the picks, and I approve of most of them. The first pick is from their 75 album Fighting and Rosalie, which is actually a Bob Seger cover. Both versions are great. Bob Seger's version is on back in 72. Another track that, Gus, he stumped me. I'd never actually heard this song before. Also from the album Fighting, a track called Suicide. His third one from the album that really made them famous all over the universe, 76's Jailbreak, and Emerald, the song that closes out the album. And that's a pretty badass song. His next pick is from the 77 album Bad Reputation, Dancing in the Moonlight, It's Caught Me in Its Spotlight, which is one of their more pop-leaning songs. And he stumped me with this last pick from their last studio album, 1983, this glorious slow burn of a song called The Sun Goes Down from the album Thunder and Lightning. I'm going to go ahead and quickly tell you about my third Bottle Lightning sweet spot, and then we'll throw it to my good friend Joe Guinness. But my third Bottle Lightning sweet spot, the album that made me a fan, and then I couldn't get over how awesome this album was, and it ruined me for all other albums by this artist, Visions of Us on the Land by Damien Jurado. Damien is a Seattle-based singer-songwriter. He first popped up on my radar back in 2000, so that was like a full quarter century ago, and I learned about him because he and another singer-songwriter by the name of Rosie Thomas covered Springsteen's Wages of Sin on a tribute to Nebraska. Wages of Sin was written for Nebraska but never recorded for Nebraska, but the Nebraska tribute album called Badlands included a couple of songs that were not technically on Nebraska, and this was a standout. And for whatever reason, I slept on Damien's career until late one night in early 2016. I'm driving home from a Kurt Vile show in Asheville, And if you've ever driven through the mountains of Asheville late at night, you'll know that it's one of those kind of eerie experiences. And if you got the right music, it can be damn magical. And here I was, we just saw Kurt Weill, freshly broken up with just a few weeks before. So I was in a weird headspace, and I heard this song called, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Kakina, Qachina. This song leapt out of the speakers. I was listening to Sirius XMU, one of the blog radio programs. It might have been a Brooklyn Vegan, I don't know. But this song just jumped out at me, this combination of spooky reverb and psychedelic folk. And it just, I had to find out what that song was and where I could get it. And I did my research the next day, and the album hadn't even dropped yet. And it's the last of a psych folk trilogy co-produced with Damien's longtime producing partner, Richard Swift, who has since passed. But I heard this one first. I went back and heard the first two parts, Brothers and Sisters and Maricopa, and I owe them more spins. But Visions of Us on the Land really captured my imagination, unlike anything else he's done. And he is prolific as fuck. So Damien Jurado's Visions of Us on the Land is my final Bottled Lightning sweet spot. Joe, bring it on home.
Prolific as fuck. It's like Elon Musk, but in a different way entirely. You should unmute Greenberg. I I don't remember how you did you put this assignment to me, but my notes. It's the only song I like. That's the title of my assignment. But
so 5 songs you like by artists you don't like.
Yeah, and I don't know if I cleaved exactly to that. It ended up morphing into like 5 songs I like by artists I really don't listen to or give a crap about.
That's fine too.
So it's not like dislike. It's just like for whatever reason, and I'll go start babbling it right now.
All right.
We all listen to a lot of songs and we never really connect with the artist, but those songs are killer, and maybe if you took the time, you might find another one. When Scott gave me the assignment, I started gathering these acorns, I ended up sort of categorizing in my head, what's the nature of my relationship with this song or this band, and my list, which ended up being 7 before I got distracted and didn't get back to it, and I'm just going to do 5. But each song I have a kind of a unique relationship with, or a certain kind of relationship. And here are the songs. Institutionalized by Suicidal Tendencies. That's one song. I actually remember owning that record back in the day. But that song's like epic and perfect, and no, I can't imagine how they built a whole career and they're still around. And that song, just I don't need to hear another Suicidal Tendency songs ever, but they kept going. And the interesting thing about that is there's people who would say, what? They have this whole great catalog. You're just totally missing out. So it sort of speaks to the whimsy of taste, I listened to that just before I jumped on here, and it still like moves me in a great way. Like it's really damn funny, but it's also emotionally really true to me. The next song is one by a guy who was in a Scottish band out of the Postcard label, and this 80s pop scene. He was in Orange Juice. And I never listened to Orange Juice, and I never listened to this guy, Edward Collins, except for this one song, which is called Losing Sleep, which he's got a sickness. I think he was ill at the time, and this song was about this illness, but it's really, it's vague enough to it speaks to a particular kind of discomfort in life. and emotional, being emotionally adrift from like the things you need, and trying to pull it all together. And it's really powerful. But I listen to that record and I'm like, meh. I don't need to go back to that. Another song on my list is I think I don't really know much about him. It was put on a mix for me. A dude named John Vanderslice, who's, I know he's pretty prolific, and I've heard a few other songs, but this one song just came on a mix from a friend called White Dove. It's a narrative, it's a story, it's about a conversation between two new neighbors that takes a really awful turn, like emotionally. It's just like a stunning turn into song, and it speaks to a certain type of song that's out there. People write these narratives, but this one has just there's something in it that's terrible. Like the in this, just you meet somebody and you have a discussion and you ask the wrong question, and all of a sudden they're telling you something about a horrible thing in their life. You just push that right button and it comes out in casual conversation. And it's pretty heavy and wonderful. It's a great song, but I never really bothered listening to any more John Vanderslice. What am I? Is that 3? That's 3. There's a song by a band called Mountain, Leslie West and Mountain, called Mississippi Queen. This is another song I listened to early on. I really don't know their story, but you'd think there's some, earthy Southern boogie band, but Leslie West is a Brooklyn Jew. And I don't, they think they had something of a career, but that I know nothing about. It's a 70s kind of boogie rock band. Anybody who knows more, feel free to chime in. But this song Mississippi Queen features one of my favorite little couplets of all time. While the rest of them dudes were getting their kicks, I beg your pardon, I was getting mine. It's just such a goof. And the song rocks. It's fun, but I don't need any more. So it's, I'm dismissing a whole body of work for this one beautiful thing. And I just think, on one hand, there's songs like Mountain, and for all but a very tiny core of people, people remember one song and they might remember it for years. And that's kind of amazing. On the other hand, you get the Beatles, who you like have hundreds of songs that, people listen to every day. It's success is elusive, but that was a pretty big song. I wanted to throw out a this is like 5.5. It's a song from Under the Floorboards by a British new wave band, Magazine. Do you know that song, anybody? I love that song. It should go on the playlist just for that. But I had that, I listened to that only, and then I ended up listening to more of it, and I liked a lot more of them. So, but it's an awesome song that I had a kind of a monogamous relationship with for years. Last song is by a band called the Young Holt Trio. It's called Whack Whack. Whack Whack? You don't know Whack Whack? Whack Whack, doo doo doo. They're like sort of a warm, fun pop jazz band. The Young Holt Trio. Eventually, they changed the name to Young Holt Unlimited, but it's a 3-piece: bass, drums, piano, and this is kind of a novelty hit. It was their biggest hit, though. It just maybe scraped the top 40, and it's a fun It's a fun little R&B jazz novelty thing that they were unable to repeat, even though they had a really long career. Young Holt Trio, then to be Young Holt Unlimited. That's it. That's the 5.5 of them.
That's very cool. I need to seek that out because I love those soul jazz instrumentals. But great job, Joe. Everybody did a great job. I will grade myself, and Rabbi Punchberg will grade me, and I think I did maybe a C+. I think I feel like I glossed over a lot of things. I didn't really go into a deep analysis, but I think at the end of the day, what I hope to get across was that I love these records, and because I'm an asshole, I Joe is giving me the mark of anarchy. Because I'm an asshole and I fall in love with something and nothing else will ever be as good as that. These albums just I put them up on a pedestal, and maybe that's something I need to work on with my therapist. But everybody did a great job. And Joe, I want to go ahead and go back to what you were saying before about when I said prolific as fuck and saying it's like Elon Musk, but in a good way. I would like to think that Damien Jurado's version of the Cybertruck would be so many more times cooler. So, all right. So what do we got here? We still got like 16 minutes to fuck around. So I think that we need to talk about the new Waterboys record. What do you think, peeps? I think we need to take ourselves off of mute.
New Waterboys record, recent listens like we do every month. I'll jump in on the Waterboys record because I never did on the group chat. It's a concept album, and so you can't listen to it willy-nilly. You got to sit down and commit the hour to it. But on one of our previous conversations, I remember Amy Rock learning for the first time that Michael Franti had this like serious phase where he was just really a serious artist before he became kind of like beach jams, kind of new age beach jams. And he had two albums, Stay Human, I think was one, and Chocolate Superhighway was the other one, that he structured like this Waterboys album where there were kind of like these narrative interjections and there was this like storyline through the album. And so the first time I listened to the new Waterboys all the way through, it really struck me as a cohesive, like a audio documentary kind of thing. And I loved the music. I loved all of it, but I haven't found myself wanting to really feeling that I have the hour to go back to it with all the other music that I'm listening to now. So it hasn't magnetized me, the way I'd hoped it would bring me back. But I think it'll bring me back eventually. I just picked up a new book by a trans woman from Toronto who grew up as a dude in the Yukon, and the name of the book is How Dad Rock Made Me a Woman. And she's talking about her very like laborer, drives a pickup truck dad and his mixtapes. That's how the book starts out. And her dad was really into the Waterboys and listened to a lot of Waterboys on cassette in this pickup truck in the Yukon in the 90s. And so I don't know, I just really, and the way the author's name, I'll have to think of and come back to you guys on that. But the way she described
it's Nico Stratus, right?
Yeah. Do you have that book too?
No, is it out already?
Yeah, I just bought it the other day. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. No, I follow her on the socials. So.
Well, I need to follow her. I'm reading the book now, and it's excellent. It's very heartbreaking being a trans kid in the closet in the Yukon in the 90s. I mean, it's not an easy path that she was on, but it's an amazing book, and it's all about. So far, it's been about REM, the Replacements, or Radiohead. I mean, it's an amazing book, but it starts out with the Waterboys. So yeah, yay for the Waterboys.
So I'll go ahead and say I have listened to the album once, and I wanted to give it the attention it deserved. So I sat down and I listened to it, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I enjoyed the pre-release singles. It's a concept piece. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's a lot of songs I enjoyed. I tried really hard not to compare it to previous Waterboys albums because I knew that was unfair. I feel like a lot of the interstitial, like interlude things really, some of them were just less than necessary. And I definitely want to give it some more time. I have not found myself, like Andy says, magnetized to it, but I definitely want to give it some more. I felt like I needed to let it sit. I feel like it might be one of those albums where I'm like, I could enjoy some of these songs on their own, but it is definitely, I think, built to be consumed as once, which could be a double-edged sword. So um, I'm looking forward to spending more time with it and to see how I grow with it.
I thought there was, we talked about it for a little bit on our chat, and then it sort of went away, and that's sort of the feeling for me. I've kind of worked myself into a Waterboys frenzy over the last few months, and was really excited for this record, but I ended up not pre-ordering it, which is something I usually would do. And then when it came out, I would have liked to buy it, but I just didn't have a chance. So I listened to it, and now I don't really want to buy it. So it's kind of weird. I think it would be a hard record to listen to and enjoy. It's just because of the nature of it. I think it's spot on for, it succeeds at what he's doing, but I wish it were like a distilled to a 10-track album with great songs. Rick, you mentioned the Blue Velvet song. I don't remember what it was called, but I remember the lyric. And I had similar feelings about that. It was really disturbing in the movie to me at that time, and his character, which I thought was great in a way, but this song was just like, yeah, it's work. It's just a lot of chewing, but that's I felt that way. Yeah,
I agree with you, but at the same time, my inner 8-year-old did laugh out loud when I listened to it.
Yeah, I got 8-year-olds here. They swear like sailors. So yeah, thanks, Frank.
Now I'm imagining your kids like dressed like little Cracker Jack sailors, with cigars and bourbon.
And
Mike Scott has always had this world building kind of fantasy. I didn't realize this until I picked up his biography, autobiography, which I started and put down. So I usually pick books up and don't finish them, but he was really into the Chronicles of Narnia when he was a kid. And there's a line in, I think it's A Church Not Made with Hands, that is actually a reference to C.S. Lewis. And I only figured that out years later after I read that he was into C.S. Lewis. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot of world building in this. It's a concept album. I mean, it is. It's all those things. It's definitely, I'm on a Waterboys Facebook group, and they're like 50-50. People either love it or they're trashing it pretty bad.
If this was put on as a stage show, I would be enthralled.
Like a musical?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun. I'm seeing him on this tour here. I'm totally stoked for that, but I hope it's not. I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna play the hits from that record.
Right.
That's my wish, and because it's in Red Bank, I'm hoping that Springsteen actually cameos.
Oh man. So what does everybody think though about the two songs where Mike just magnanimously allowed the guest artist to really just be the song? I'm like, the Steve Earle track and the Fiona Apple track. It's like there are no other Waterboys present on these. Mike just got out of the way, and that's a pretty bold move.
I love that about it. I thought that was a really fantastic, and I do love all the collaborations. I mean, Taylor Goldsmith I love from Dawes and stuff like that. So yeah,
I'm like, yeah, Taylor's, just the backgrounds that Taylor does just really bring a lot to that song, and that's a testament to like what a good singer he is.
That I don't know how it got here. Is actually I don't know if you had a chance. I was going to repeat Mike Scott bits from he was on interviewed by Scott Simon over the weekend on NPR. So if you want to hear that, I read the transcript, but it's out there. But he said I don't know how. What is it? I don't know how I got here.
Yeah.
He said that is a direct quote from an interview he read with him. So that's kind of cool. He did his research,
Right.
it's not a lark, you know. He really put his soul into this, which is cool.
Do you see Mike Scott's you know how they like I see these in my Instagram feed, but it's like Pitchfork asks people for their perfect 10 album, and they asked Mike Scott, and his perfect 10 album was Miles Davis's Sketches of Spain.
Interesting. I should dig that up. That's it's an interesting choice, left field choice.
Hey Scott, can we do a new releases round?
Sure.
I was wondering.
Rick, go ahead.
I was just wondering if Amy had any thoughts about the album.
I didn't get a chance to sit down with it yet, but I still want to. I just haven't yet. Yeah, I haven't been listening to too many new releases yet either. But
you're recovering from getting your face melted by Kraftwerk.
It's true. It's true. And actually, the only other thing I've been hardcore listening to this month was I had a conversation about industrial music with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting into a new release from Ministry. Okay, so I am talking about a new release. But he was also like, what else that I used to listen to that I loved? And he turned me back on to Stabbing Westward.
Ooh.
And it's just 90s industrial rock, and it rules. So that's all I've been listening to.
I've been digging the new Lucy Dacus. I know that there's a lot of critics out there who are kind of like, well, you know, we expect more emotion out of her. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I think it's a good record. I don't know. Sometimes I want to tell critics to shut up. Maybe that should be my thing. I should maybe go ambush critics and go, shut up, and become a huge internet star. Yeah. I don't know.
Do it.
Maybe that would just be really annoying.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. I think the new Lucy Dacus album is really good, and I don't know how much more emotion she could have squeezed out of.
I'm like, granted, I'm not a Lucy Dacus completist,
Yeah.
but I've seen her live.
Yeah.
And I have always thought she is just one of the most charming human beings on the face of the earth. And that's part of who she is. And she's never really been a screamer.
Mm-mm.
She's never been an emoter. And I'm listening to this, and there's some production on there. And, I think that, Ankles, in addition to just being a great romantic, horny pop song, is just, it's an earworm. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, we're living in a raging dumpster fire. And if there's an earworm that I like, that's a gift.
Yeah. Well, I want to tag off with that and offer just one recommendation. And that is with tagging off of Lucy Dacus's compadre, Julian Baker. Julian Baker and Torres's new album, Save a Prayer for Me, is wonderful. I mean, it is outlaw country at its best. Mm-hmm. There's smart writing, emotion, songs about bottoming out and self-recrimination. There's humor in it, but in the strand of Vadim the artist and some others, this is unabashedly queer country, and it's a great album.
I'm looking forward to listening to it. The only other ones I've listened to, and it's not like I've been listening to things hardcore, but new Craig Finn record, Craig from the Hold Steady, produced by Adam Granduciel of The War on Drugs, and the Lucy record, and the new Japanese Breakfast record is damn delightful. Michelle Zauner. If you ever get a chance to see her live, don't miss her, because in addition to just being a great singer-songwriter, she shreds on that guitar. I would like to see her get in a guitar duel with St. Vincent. But that's just me. All right, so we've got 2 minutes left.
I've got a couple. We're actually we got a late start. We started a couple minutes late, so it's
Cool.
Can you guys see the counter? There's a counter in the top, my top corner that says how long the actual show's been. So I want to throw my huge recommendation, which you guys have already seen on the chat, but this band out of North Carolina called Fust. And first of all, the lead singer, his primary job right now is writing a PhD dissertation in literature about unwritten books. And I'm like, I met the guy at the show and I'm like, I can't even figure out, how do you write a literary dissertation over books that have not been written? But his thesis is about all the books that are not written because basically socialism ended. He's using the fall of the wall and the end of the Eastern Bloc as a demarcation for the end of socialism. But I think he just basically means, that capitalism is the only global system, really. And he was being directed by Frederick Jameson, who is an academic superstar who was pretty much the top kind of like academic Marxist. I mean, like when these right wingers go on and they're like, the Academy, it's a bunch of Marxists. There aren't any. I work in the Academy. We have no Marxists. But there was a day when there were Marxists in the Academy back in the 90s. And this guy was like the top Marxist in the Academy. And he died in the middle of helping this man with his dissertation. And he's brilliant. His name is Aaron. He's got the ginger, he's all redheaded, ginger curls. He's got little John Lennon professor glasses. And they make like Southern alt rock in the Drive-By Truckers, Band of Horses, My Morning Jacket vein. They also remind me of Jason Molina and Bonnie Prince Billy and early Bon Iver, with that warmth in his voice. And I'm just completely in love with this band. But what really blew my mind at the concert is that they're part of a scene or a movement. A lot of them got their albums all recorded at Drop of Sun Studio in Asheville, North Carolina, where MJ Lenderman records. And on this tour, the show that I saw them with, they're playing with the Styrofoam Winos out of Nashville. The Styrofoam Winos have no like assigned instruments. Everybody in the band played every instrument and they changed on every single song. Who was the vocalist? Who was the bassist? Who was the guitarist? Who was the drummer? Everybody played every instrument. And they were just so nice. And just the name, the Styrofoam Winos, just makes me laugh. Well, come to find out, Ryan Davis, who is out of Louisville, who's recently blew up and was the opening act for the first leg of the MJ Lenderman tour. Well, Ryan Davis was there. Come to find out, the Styrofoam Winos were a bunch of the people in his backup band on his tour. And then the backup band for Aaron Dowdy of Fust is actually another band, the entirety of another band called Sluice, Sluice. So apparently these guys all record together. They all know each other and they share members. Like they can't all go on tour at once because they're borrowing each other's members. And so I used this as an excuse to kind of go on an indie, kind of new indie deep dive in that indie rock, that very kind of fringy. So I've got a whole list of bands now on a playlist that I'm building. And something else that Rick will be glad to hear. I don't think he cares that much, but I think you guys remember when Scott Winchell and Rick had their Apple Music versus Spotify day on the group chat about 2 months ago. Well, during the global Spotify crash the other day.
Wait a minute, was it crash?
Yeah, Spotify went down for like a whole day. And I was jonesing music. And so I actually had realized I had accidentally subscribed to Apple Music because I was going to try out this whole loss list thing. And I started listening. And the first time I did it, I was like, I would listen to the same song on both services. And I'd be like, I can't tell the difference. My ears are not mature enough to understand lossless. But this time I think I really heard a difference, that the Apple Music really did sound better on the good headphones than the Spotify. And now that I've noticed what I think is a crispness and a clarity to the mixes, they're not as flat or as muddy, which is I think what the difference between an MP3 and a FLAC is, though I couldn't write a term paper on it. So now I've been like trying to build my Apple Music account up, and figuring out how to transfer playlists. Anyway, so that's a shit ton of work. But I've got this playlist in Apple Music now that is this kind of school of new indie bands that are all in the orbit of MJ Lenderman, the Styrofoam Winos, and Fust. And I have to say that on the jacket, this was on our last episode, I was really mad at Stephen Hayden because he trashed on the jacket and on Jason Isbell, in my opinion, on his big podcast. Well, he loves Fust, and I've come to realize over the last couple of years how much my tastes have been influenced by Stephen Hayden, and it's kind of a burden to have a rock critic in your life that you kind of have as a barometer, to check your tastes a little bit. So, but he's in a lot of these other bands that are in the same orbit and also record at the same recording studio, are groups that he's kind of recommended. And they're groups that I never would have heard of if I wasn't listening to podcasts. Like I wouldn't have found a lot of these obscure groups had I not been kind of, reading music zines and listening to podcasts. So I just can't recommend that enough.
I never heard of Phoebe Bridgers until I was listening to Haydn's podcast that he used to do. I forget the name of it, but it was sponsored by Uprocks. It was, what was the name of it? Oh, it was called Celebration Rock, like the Japan Droids album. But he did a series where he had different indie artists covering Springsteen songs, and Phoebe Bridgers was one of the artists. I had never heard of her before. He introduced me to her.
Well, him and Ian, his buddy that does IndieCast, they come out every Friday without fail, and it is usually a really good listen. So, and they always recommend new stuff that I've never heard of. So, Joe,
Yes.
Oh, you look like you were going to say something.
No, I at various times. I've listened as far as new stuff goes, I've listened to the Waterboys, and you know how I feel about that. There's a band called the Mekons that came out with a record called Horror, which I'd like to hold up because it's got a really stunning cover, but I don't own it yet. But it's the Mekons, and it's the fact that they're out there touring after all this time is amazing. I have to admit I slept on them for years, but it's great to discover somebody with this whole history. Embarrassed that I didn't listen to them. But Horror is new. It's good, if not great.
I've heard good things about it. They reviewed it on Sound Opinions the other day, and thank you for reminding me. Now I want to get it.
Yeah, I'll probably pick it up at some point. So I listen to that. I Record Store Day was kind of interesting. My local didn't participate, and I went down there on Sunday and talked to her about that just because I was curious and I like hanging out there. Main Street Beats in Nyack. And she's just said it's too expensive, and she's still paying for last year, and didn't make great economic sense for her to do it. She did a half off sale of used stuff, so that was cool. The one Record Store Day thing I did get in was this 7-inch of Tom Waits' "Get Behind the Mule," which I have tattooed on me.
Nice.
It's hard to see because my lighting's crap, but he's playing on an old Wurlitzer, and it sounds like just some kid on a beach trying to make a sandcastle just dug up Tom Waits playing a Wurlitzer. Like he's covered in grit. It's amazing, and it is spiritual. But at that day at Main Street, she sold me the copy of Tim. They didn't participate.
Ooh.
They didn't participate, but she ordered a copy for herself. And I said, that's really the only thing I wanted. And then I was browsing. She came out and said, I can sell you mine. And I said, cool. It's got an Ed Stasium mix like Pleased to Meet Me did. It's I guess it's the lesser record critically. It's because it's so much more low key. That seemed like a big deal last year. But the Stasium mix is good. The original mix is fine. It's an amazing record. And I also finally bought this on vinyl. This is every time I listen to this, which is pretty regularly, it just stuns me at how amazing it is. Like just somebody, just exploded out of nowhere and made this great record, and then spent the rest of her career trying to live it down. even though she's done some worthy stuff, it's just, this is just amazingly brilliant to me every time. Exile in Guyville, that is, if you could.
That's my favorite record of the 90s.
Yeah, it's just oof. It just hits home. And it's great rock. Great rock.
And she can do whatever the hell she wants because she's earned it. But yeah, it is coming out of the gate with something like that. It's like, how do you, again, going back to the Bob Lightning sweet spots. It's like, how do you, that is such a double-edged sword. It's like to come out with such a great album and it's so different, especially if it's your first album out of the gate. You've had your whole life to create that work, and if everybody loves it, then you've got like 9 months to do your next album. I'm like, the pressure is just, you could create a diamond with that pressure.
Yeah,
and that's what they're trying to do, and sometimes they just end up with a lump of gold.
Yeah, it's the sophomore slump is real.
Yeah, it is. So
I guess we did it. Now we've gone way over time. I think we did it, Scott. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me play Puppet Master, and let's give it up for Rabbi Punchberg for keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Hey, everybody, if you can stay on the Zoom for just a minute, we can plan next month. We are the Music Nerds. Woohoo! Thanks for coming. I hope Amy makes us another playlist. Yay.
Yeah.
Chowda.